Hi everyone, again, glad to be back with you. I've had a lot of technical problems recently and I haven't been able to keep a real agenda to speak of. I hope things will get better in the future and if possible in the near future. Tonight we're going to talk about healing. We're going to talk about suffering, what sort of diseases there are, and how we can address them in the hope of finding solutions. We have a lot of people suffering, more and more suffering, more and more diseases, and that's why we probably need more and more remedies, or at least trying to relieve people of whatever they are suffering from. The idea here is to present a few solutions. Not all of them are from Earth. I'm going to talk about traditional healing and medicine, about surgery, about alternative approaches, and about galactic endeavors to help us live a better life, a more comfortable life, and also a more enjoyable life, and find relief to our problems. It's not easy. It's not an easy business, but believe me, there are answers out there and they really work. Only a lot of them, if not most of those alternative or beyond this earth answers, are known to people. Here you can always contact me and people like me, and then in the hope of finding some sort of answers, I heal people. I also practice immaterial surgery. I work remote, so you can call me from anywhere in the world. We can arrange a treatment and a session, and I will tell you more through the course of my presentation tonight. Some examples: my friend Stéphane here in France, for example, he calls me late March. He had been going through hell with pains for a couple of weeks already back then, especially in his right lower back. That was stopped with crippling fatigue and an overall sense of weakness and listlessness, which was most unpleasant as he has to do, like most people, a regular day's work plus family and things in the evening and at the weekend. Strangely enough, ever since the morning on that day, on the 21st of March, I had been, upon waking up, I had been thinking about him, and I've been sensing something. There was something with him. And so I didn't say anything. I didn't contact him or anything, but very, very soon in the morning, I think that it was on a Sunday. Yes, it was on a Sunday. So he contacted me like mid-morning and telling me things that had not been sorted out, and he couldn't find any relief after all these weeks. And then there was no way he could heal himself, as he's also a healer. And could I do anything for him? Which, of course, I tried. So I got connected back to the connection I had in the morning before he called upon me. And I'm beginning to feel like a disc, a kind of CD disc, which is there. So we're talking about his lower right back, near the kidney. And there is, suddenly I can see that there is like a portal in that disc. It's really, really new to me and really interesting at the same time. And suddenly a gray appears there, about 5'5", and he's like skiving off behind the disc. That's what I thought at the time. But then I realized he was more like going through the disc. So I realized this portal is drawing on Stephane's energy for fuel. So it's really, really tiring for him. He's really listless and he finds it really painful to do anything. So I get connected, I dive right through the disc, and what I see right there behind there is a big spacecraft. a big spacecraft, like hovering about the place there, like it's somewhere hanging in space, in limbo there. So I get connected to the occupants and I ask them who they are and what their purpose is. But at first they disappear quickly, leaving Stefan free from pain upon my request. So he's more relaxed and he's beginning to feel energy flowing back into his system. All is fine. We take leave of one another, and then the next day he sends me another message. The problem is back. After having been much better, the problem has come back. So it took us a few more weeks of coming and going to find out what those aliens had actually been doing. They had actually been trying to reach out for him and contact him. Little did we know that at the beginning. We just thought they were there putting some implants or doing some work on him, which in fact they were not really back then at the time. They were mostly trying to get through to him. And we realized he belonged to their galactic family. So it was a nice sort of getting back together kind of affair. Then they endeavored to, they were trying to reconnect to him, and him to their kind. So they had to actually mutate him, which is what they've been doing after, as from then on. But they have been working for him on the next following like 6 months, maybe until very recently. We are late November now, so it's been 6 months. And he's only just finally got total relief. They're actually working on him so he gets back physically closer to his kind. They are like a kind of space advanced frogs, really, really intelligent, really, really advanced technologically. They call themselves the Astras, and they are now. We actually I invited them to come and join us in our channeling with Stefan and I, which we try and do every month. And so we could get together, we could get to know them better, we could introduce them to all the other aliens and space people who are in contact with us, and their own galactic confederations, our own galactic confederation, so we could work together. And it's really networking now really, really well, and we're developing that all the time. Now, what is interesting here is that this also gave me the opportunity to find other members of another side of my galactic family. You know, I have many galactic families, but this is another one, a kind of galactic tritons, you know, sort of cousins to the frogs. And I didn't even imagine they existed. But then it was really, really nice because they came forth and they told me we are actually family. And there are many, many things connecting us, which is great. Now, the other benefits for Stefan and I is they all leave us with a lot of information, a lot of training, and they exchange and partner with us and other people, and it's really great. Why am I talking about this? Is also because this is part of one of the forms of healing I want to talk about tonight and to introduce to you, and which we now practice. So we can address problems that traditional and even alternative medicine cannot, unfortunately, help with, but we can do that now, and more and better all the time. There are many, many people who have been suffering for a long time, dozens of years, sometimes all their life, and they're getting on in age. A life of pain and suffering, never ending. People who have tried and tested everything on offer for relief and might even die trying. People who have, like me, spent fortunes on getting well again. For the people who haven't been following me so far, I have been through a lot myself. I'm now 61, and I have had a real hard life, problems with a violent mother, violent parents who abused me all the time, all my life until I was 16. Before birth, my mother even tried to kill me in her own belly. And that's where I come from. And then, of course, all that caused a lot of damage. 16 years of day and night, every day and every night of abuse, leave a lot of damage behind. Between fragility, bones, physical, psychological, etc., you name it, until I was left paralyzed, lying on a bed for 2 years and I couldn't move. Thank God everything is much better now. All my life I have tried to find relief to this, that, or the other, and I have learned. A lot through with people here, traditional doctors and surgeons. I've learned with alternative people in different fields I'm going to talk about, and a lot of help with aliens, because I didn't know back then that I could call upon them. They were there all the time. We can always call upon our guardian angels or companions or galactic surroundings, archangels, and etc. Only at that time I didn't know. I could feel there was something there, but I didn't know how to talk to them and communicate and exchange with them, which I do now on a regular basis, several times daily and several times nightly even. But there was nothing I could do. I had pain all the time, here, there, most of my body, and etc. Now I have gotten out of all this, and everything is much better and getting better all the time. Now, let me say that if for people who know neuro-linguistic programming, neuro-linguistic programmers will tell you that we each have our own map of the world, our own reading, our own understanding of the world we live in, which is perfectly understandable. Once we realize we create our own world, and this will help us in our healing too. This is what the Hindu called Maya, illusion. Others will call it the Matrix, and this is precisely what our education is fighting to hide. Our world is what we make of it. What we find, what we bring is what we find. We select from our own menu, sitting down to the banquet of life, what will happen to us. We can change that anytime. We do that before we are born, and we can change that anytime. There's no written in the stone as such destiny or track or path that we may have to follow without being able to answer or address this. There are many things. Now, let's talk about energy healing. Living in times when the question of health has never been so pressing, and with equally growing concern, most of us ask, what health, what illness or illnesses, what treatment or treatments? We are indeed living times when treating does not necessarily mean healing, and far from it. Sign of the times when something else is needed, and badly needed too. We are always shown heroes endowed with superpowers they have collected from trials and errors. People who are familiar with the series, the 4400, or the Marvel series and Heroes, to name but a few. In some cultures, they were granted gifts from birth or merely born with them, just like me, even if I didn't know about it back then. I'm beginning to believe sometimes that I'm one of the 4400s. Maybe little did I know about it. The medical field today recognizes that the emotional and or spiritual condition of the patient may interfere with good health and cause havoc in his state of health to the point of manifesting the worst diseases. And yet, the same people refuse point blank to admit that there are other therapeutic approaches and remedies than chemical treatments, surgery, or psychotherapy. Even if osteopathy, to name but one of the alternative medicine today, is slowing working its way into hospitals. In France, for example, osteopathy has been raised to medical status through extensive studies stretching now over 7 years now. Years ago, until about 10 years ago, I think, osteopathy training was only 4 years long. Now it is 7 years long, and it equals, the diploma equals a doctor's diploma, but only they have had to add a lot of things and throw those things into the whole course, which is for the better, that's all. Man is far from grasping the human condition and being, and the same applies to the world he lives in. Our children are still being taught that every and any living organism will be destroyed through being boiled at 100 degrees Celsius, while we have known for the past 50 years, that there are indeed extremophile organisms defying that law and living in temperatures averaging 500 degrees Celsius. And this is supposed to be teaching science. Let me tell you, I could say a lot of things about our educational system and how it is not working and not teaching and hiding, in fact, much more than we even could imagine, and that what is supposed to be. Let us remember that science is never finite, and real science is about observing repeated facts and conditions, as well as observing new facts and conditions and evolution. No real scientist worthy of that name may contradict this. Likewise, we used to believe that asteroids and megavolcanoes that brought the darkening of our skies and had wiped off life off the surface of the planet, while many actually survived and evolved through this, ensuring the continuity of life on Earth. And this is also precisely what reinforced the life of extraterrestrial life in more than hostile environments. And that's what happened to things on Earth, to plants and animals on Earth. Food-wise, we are still told that this or that food or ingredient is bad for health, while other people in other countries and cultures will thrive on eating daily that food daily without the slightest evidence of danger for the human organism. So we know absolutely nothing about diet, which is another subject I have written about. I have a book on Amazon on sale about this. When I observed from the time I was 15, I observed the effect on food and lifestyle and studied ever since then and compared methods, diets, and etc., what works and what doesn't work. Likewise for medication, which does not heal or cure patient, but proceeds them to having them addicted to medication with terrible side effects. And the same logic applies to other worlds and dimensions. Anything goes. Only to live in those other environments requires adequate skills and preliminaries, which explains how life may happily thrive in the hardest, most difficult, most dangerous, furthest, smallest, biggest, darkest, lightest, densest, driest, wettest, most improbable places in the whole of creation where man could not survive. And one creature's meat is another one's poison. Man knows so little about life and his own environment that he still believes that sending messages to aliens, while he has always had alien messages and beings before his very eyes, and yet refuses to acknowledge them. Not only do aliens come to Earth, but a lot of them have been living on Earth before the dawn of man. And most of those aliens have been interacting with humans all the while too. In fact, aliens created and Earth and humans. He knows little of his own world, and he knows little about himself, his being, his powers, his potential, as I've explained, for example, in my show on the brain, as I explain there and then. So let's go back to that if you're ever interested. Self-proclaimed scientists snigger at their colleagues who dare talk about ETs, most of whom are in contact with ETs and have experienced encounters too, and some way beyond the third kind. Encounters of the third kind, as a reminder, is in fact encounters where we actually get to meet in the flesh aliens on Earth, usually. Encounters, the first ones have never experienced, and so would find most fruitful to partner with them. I mean by that if you're talking like a lot of scientists about a subject you don't know, like for example, Fermi's protocol. Fermi was a scientist in the 18th century, I think, and he said that if nobody had ever seen aliens, it was just plainly because they didn't exist. Now, that goes to the point of drinking a glass of water from the ocean, and if you don't find any shark in your glass of water, then that means there can't be sharks in any ocean or any water on the planet, which is complete nonsense. But that is past and still passes as science today. Um, for the luckiest of those people, partnering would mean to me be the real scientist, because when you partner, you discover, you endeavor, you go out there on the field like some rare scientists and medical people do. You go there, out of your lab, out of your white rooms, to try hands-on field experience and experimentation and see what's really going on. Now, those who know me and follow me will already know that I am part alien. I used to think it was only 1/4 alien. It's now apparently less than 10%. I've different kinds of aliens mixed into me, like a lot of people on Earth and on other planets. So I know those people. I know what I'm talking about. When I was a kid, people, my friends used to tell me, "You believe?" And I would say, "No, I don't believe. I know. I actually know them. I meet them. I see them. I interact with them. They take me places in this space and other spaces and other dimension. The truth is elsewhere. It pays to approach each issue with its own solution and appropriate treatment, and we will see that tonight. Treatment may vary from one individual to the next, or for particular or sometimes peculiar reasons, whether personal, karmic, or other. I'm saying this because some people will follow a treatment, classical, for example, medical chemical treatment, all their life without having the slightest result. Most of them are lucky when they actually get pain relief, and that doesn't treat them. I mean, imagine people who have cancer, for example, only because the disease does not stem from an event or an accident that might have happened in this life. We have here on Earth all the necessary ingredients to life, health, and evolution, and we still need to find them out ever since they were given to us. That is indeed what man calls science. Health issues do not always and systematically arise, as I was saying, from accidents and events in our life, in our present life, from our food and eating habits, excesses or lacks from karma and contracts accepted upon incarnations, life missions, or whatever you may think of else. This is the reason I told you at the beginning of the example of Stefan and how I could treat him, because the answer was not in this life. He just thought he had been slipping in a bad position or something. He had made an effort. He has a manual work. So maybe he had done something he shouldn't have, overtaxed his body one way or the other. In fact, it was none of that. As I developed in my parallel dimensions and parallel lives and the world sleep, and the lost world of sleep shows, there are indeed other entities and other forces at work there, backstage, working for or against us, whether with our knowing or not. Most of the time, we're not aware. Those acting upon us are not necessarily guilty of some evil crime. They may only be doing their homework. research or else, just as humans do on plants and animals and other humans. Even sometimes when we go to hospital, of course, our doctors, our surgeons, come and learn from our diseases and the progress we do in the medicine we do. Suffering is not fatal. And I'm going to include every new finding in the list of tools I make sure I carry around with me in my toolbox, as I do with my karmic regression sessions and healing. I have spent my whole life digging for treatments, searching for answers to my own health issues and other people's, enriching in the process many health specialists, doctors, therapists, osteopaths, ethiopaths, physiotherapists, acupuncturists, shrinks, witch doctors, alternative healers, and many others who shall all remain nameless until I pushed 60 years of age, when I discovered something that enabled me to understand many things. And among them, how Earth was merely a laboratory. We are, in fact, in a kind of petri dish under a microscope. I was only 10 years old when I was given to understand that I could do everything I could hope for and yet still had so much to do. I made the decision there and then that I would commit to my highest choices and endeavors and implement them as from that day on, not wasting any time. I would. Now, everything was possible given the fact that I could multitask and do different things, each in one hand, while the other was busy, for example, and in different languages, all at the same time, all at once. I did everything in my power, even back then, to further my researches and my reaches, develop my potential. I studied and have been studying ever since everything possible. I've learned and applied one thing after the other with no possible when possible, even together sometimes. Every single thing that would enable me to grow and evolve while freeing myself from the slavery of the world, and I got amazing results. I am now training people who wish to learn them now while still studying other skills myself. Starting with music. I had noticed that certain songs and music had a certain effect on me, on my moods, on my energy, while other songs and music had a radically different effect. Thus, I decided to put them all to good use. Yet, I was still far away from music therapy, even though moving already in the right direction. I followed this up with certain movements, dancing, and I went on to develop certain ways of walking, of running, even to better my walking and my running, to save my energy when I was making efforts and exercising. Some lights came into play. From there on, completing my toolbox. So we can use music to help us, to cure us, and we can use light even. Remember, light is sound. That means sound turns, when densified, into light. Light turns into matter. This is what we are now here. We are matter. Let me just continue. I would go as far as Reiki shields, those emotional plates we develop to protect ourselves. That only, to the best of my knowledge and experience, karmic regression can melt and break through. Rather than take care of our diseases, we should be taking care of our own health. Now, let's look at some of the options we have here. Traditional chemical medicine, also called oncology or allopathy. Surgery and chemotherapy. Traditional chemical medicine may go as far as surgery when needed. For example, removing cancerous cells or cancerous parts of our body, for example, removing one kidney, removing part of our liver or a lung or something, or whatever, or a tumor cell or a tumor part or cells in our body. All classical therapies and quantum mechanics paved the way for genetic therapy. Today we do that. This is really the new breakthrough today. What with the discovery and the reading and the mapping of the human genome, what with experiences and experiments, I should say, carried out in labs when people, on animals, on plants also, and on people when they are ill and when we're looking for better treatment. Chemotherapy has freed us from ray therapy, X-ray therapy, which basically did as much damage as cancer for the past few decades. But then at the time, that was all we knew. And it also saved a few people's lives. Recent progress in chemotherapy has enabled doctors to get better target treatment while ensuring better and faster relief. This is scientific progress as humans go. Yet chemotherapy stems from chemical therapy, which brings along its own side effects, such as loss of sense, of taste, stomach and bowel pains, loss of memory, concentration issues, loss of hair, only to mention but a few. And that without reckoning with the fact that the human body is programmed to repel all foreign bodies entering its system and metabolism, which brings therapists to give larger doses so as to ensure a minimum of them hit home. That's not without any danger, but again, that is the best the medical field knows. Cheers, everyone. We need to remember that the main inconvenience of all those treatments is they are often hard to follow for the rest of your life. They are long, while other treatments offer a real healing rather than a cure to last forever and not cure you. I'm going to tell you about another one of my friends. This is another example of one of my healings. This friend is called Christian. He came to see me one day, and while we were having coffee, he tells me that he has had major stomach issues all his life. Now, Christian is 66 now. He has had acidity in his stomach, bad digestions, and that bothers him night and day. I gave him a bioenergy scanning and treatment, and I realized that there was a metallic shell all around his stomach at his vital energy level, that is, and that tightens his stomach all the time. So he has pressure on his stomach all the time. I decide to use immaterial surgery to remove it, and he says he feels much better. A few days later, none of these problems has resurfaced, and that was months ago, maybe a year ago now, and he has not had any problem with his stomach ever since. Now, stomach troubles are common in most people, and many imagine or are told they are the result of a stressful way of life, unbalanced or unreasonable eating patterns, when they are not due to bad postures or poor sleep. Only we realize here that the solution does not rest in neither antidepressant or diet. Here again, we had avoided treatments that would have led to poor or no results with plaguing side effects, if not dangerous, for the rest of his life. Christian is absolutely stomach trouble free now. No more problem with his digestion, no more pains, nothing of the kind. Let us now look at osteopathy, sometimes called chiropractic or etiopathy, with some little differences between them, but they all stem from the same root. They have redefined the rules of our connection to our body and our health, going back to the natural and and resting our case on the law of natural recovery. The most recent discovery is that of fascia, or tissues that connect the different parts of our body in a most unexpected way, in the most unexpected places. And they work miracles too when they're addressed. A revolution that has not been matched since the dawn of Ayurvedic medicine, the Indian traditional medicine. This is really amazing because we have tissues in our body that we didn't know 20 years ago it even existed. No matter how many X-rays, MRIs, or scanners we took, they just didn't seem to be noticed somehow. And now we realize that they're connecting all the parts of our body. You may have a headache that stems from a problem in one of your legs. This is really, really amazing. I would really recommend. Most people who actually treat with fascia are osteopaths. So try and find one in your area if you need one. Because they really work wonders. I have a friend who is an osteopath, and she does treatment. She gives treatment with fascia, and it is really, really amazing. She actually told me about it, and I'm sure there are programs there. I know of some in French. I haven't checked out in English what there is on offer actually, but there is really, really a lot to be learned from fascia, and we don't even know what those. I mean, the medical field, when I say we, doesn't even know what those tissues really are, what they really do, why they're really there. They only know that it works. And well, this is the best of it, if you ask me. So this is for osteopathy. Another alternative approach to healing is homeopathy. Homeopathy is mostly to do with plant remedies, so it's natural. Some people, I have friends and people I know and former clients who use it and swear by it and would never get any other treatment. I have tried it, it did nothing for me. But it works apparently because some people actually find relief in it. So, you may find the answer for you for trying. People, let me check my notes here. Treatments. Yeah. Oh, yes. I also need to inform and or remind people, because people will go, to a shop, chemist, for example, and they will just buy homeopathy treatments off the shelf or off the counter. Only it doesn't work like that. You have to know that most of homeopathy is actually a preventive treatment. So you have to take it really at the very beginning of the health issue you may encounter. Not after. It does not cure or treat as such. It's not a curative, it's a preventive treatment. Also, go and see a professional of homeopathy, because not everything that is homeopathic will necessarily relieve you or cure you of the problem you have. There is what is called a homeopathic temperament, and only a professional will be able to check what is your homeopathic temperament, and what you need from there on. Something will work for some people and will not work for others. So go and see a professional. Another natural approach is what we call here naturopathy. It relies on, of course, the idea of rebalancing the body harmony in a healthy way of life. It uses plants. There are many, many, many things that can be also done there. Again, you may find relief in that. I have not tried it myself, so I will not say any more about it. Something else I have tried is what is called kinesiology. Kinesiology arises from physiotherapy and emotional states that may affect people, with reflection on muscle tonus and on psychological impact of the patient, all to the avail of releasing those blockages caused by accidents and events arising in our life. It is amazing what it can do. I worked with a woman who is a practitioner and is close to where I live, and she really, really helped me, especially at the beginning. Now, I tend to wear people out, and after a few sessions, things don't work for me anymore. But whatever was addressed was actually done, and I got a solution for those things. I had more issues I needed help with that could not be addressed or didn't work, didn't find their solution with kinesiology. But still, it's worth trying. Anything is worth trying. Always make sure you are with real good professionals. There are a lot of people out there today, and especially on the internet, that will tell you how they miraculously cure people and they have this and that power. And in fact, they don't really have this and that power. What I would like to say here, and I should have said this at the beginning, is that if something does not cure you rapidly, then it is either not efficient or maybe not a cure, or it will only addict you to a life of treatment with the side effects. For example, one of my friends, for example, has been seeing his shrink for 30 years. Every week, I think he goes. Uh, um, I mean, I really respect his choice. That is his choice, and he says he finds benefit in it. But it's not for me. I wouldn't go and see somebody for such a long time if I still had to go. It means there is something there that is not working. And the treatments I give are usually one shot for a lot of them. When they're not one shot, they may be 2 or 3 shots. Exception made of music therapy, because I need sometimes, not always, but sometimes I actually need to go back to the patient, or the patient to come back to me more precisely, and then we have to follow it up. But it's not that I'm changing the treatment. I am continuing and checking on progress. Music therapy really works wonders, but it takes time. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. Now, I want to talk about acupuncture, digital puncture, and shiatsu. Acupuncture is the use of needles on certain parts of your body. It was discovered by the ancient Chinese, who observed, for example, during war times when somebody lost the use of a limb, for example, and how it affected, or part of the brain or whatever, how it affected the rest of the part. And from there, they derived points on the body and meridians, like lines on the body. And from there on, they worked on finding solutions and help. This has been going for millennia, and it also really, really works. I happen to work not really with acupuncture, because I am not an acupuncturist, and acupuncture has not helped me, but meridians and spots on the body I can work with, and not only chakras. For example, the chakras are the wheels of energy we have in our body. The most famous ones are the 7-1 we have from the top of our head to the bottom of our spine and all down along our spine. But we have many, many in our body, and a lot of them are portals, in fact. I will develop that in another show. Digital puncture is the same, only, or similar, only not using needles. Needles, by the way, are completely painless. So it's very, very rare that you get a pain, and it's very minor pain. If you do ever see an acupuncturist, it's really, really mostly painless. Now, digital puncture, digital is fingers. So we work with fingers. I mean, the practitioners work with fingers on parts of the body. I will talk about EFT in a moment, which also works with fingers and points. Shiatsu is the Japanese answer to that. It can help. It has helped me a little, not as much as I expected, but maybe it was not the answer for me. The next thing I want to talk about is something really easy, anybody can do on a general basic level, but even that brings a lot of good things, is massages. The Chinese, when they get together, very often, I live with Chinese people for 11 years. As soon as somebody, oh, I've got a pain here, I'm bothered with this or that, they just put their hands on you and start massaging you here, there, or everywhere. And it really first relaxes you. It favors contact and communication, and I don't mean necessarily beyond the regular soothing or health practice. It is really, really, really good. We should really use massages all the time. Bodily contact is so important. In some cultures, they don't touch other people. They hardly ever take their kids, for example, and even babies in their hands. I mean, babies need that. We are human. We need human warmth and contact and touch. It's we're living in times now, what with the pseudo health tyranny we're having to go through. We've been having to go through for the past 2 years now. We need to touch one another. It's really, really good. And massages are really, really good because they release blockages and tensions. It's not only for sports people or people who are sick. We can just do that to feel good together and help other people feel good. Sometimes we send our kids to the doctor because they've got, I don't know, pain in their shoulder or this or that, where we could just massage them very softly in that area and they would feel better. If only because they need just the attention most of the time. Let's talk about diets, because diets can also be a form of treatment, a form of medicine. Talk about diets and instinct therapy. Many people could lose weight advantageously. As you know, we have many, many people who are overweight starting here, and some of them grossly overweight, really obese. But we're all, I mean, most of us, not all, most of us could use losing a little weight. Now, other people have to live with bulimia, where they make themselves sick and they have to throw up after eating, or anorexia nervosa. We have seen some of those people who deprive themselves of food, and they end up dying most of the time. And it's really, really difficult to find a cure. I can think of a couple of things I could do to help them, but I haven't had any requests in that direction yet. But anyway, they're all eating disorders that have to be addressed. And many people who cannot find a way out of their conditions, people who will go from one diet to the next, who will deprive themselves of food. Now, let it be said here that when you deprive yourself of food, your body reacts and keeps every little bit of food you take in, so you can actually put weight through through dieting. Through the course of the diet, I mean, while you're cutting down on your fat, sugar, or whatever. We know now that cutting down on fat, sugar, and excessive eating habits, of course, we're talking about here, but that does not. When you reduce the quantity of this, or you deprive yourself of all sugar, of starch, for example. One of my nieces was on a starch-free diet for a long time. She didn't even have weight problems as it was, in fact, but that was something she decided. That does not help. We know now that within 2 years, most people who have been on a diet actually put their weight back on, regardless of what they eat, of whether they're dieting or not. They're just diet slaves. That's what they are, or diet freaks. They just put their weight back on, and most of the time they put more weight back on than they actually had to lose, and that they actually had to begin with. It's really, really, really dangerous. I've given up diets. I've lost weight. I was much bigger than I am now until a year ago. I actually shed 3 stones. That's 21 kilos. Without dieting, without changing anything at all to my diet. I have never been a sweet tooth, a sugar eater. I don't even like it. I don't eat much salt. I don't drink alcohol. I don't like fat. but I was still putting on a lot of weight for other reasons. Those are the reasons were connected to other things, which I'm going to talk about here. And this is how when I discovered what they were linked to, I actually lost weight. Now, I lived a number of years in Iran, and in Iran, people eat an incredible amount of sugar every day, an incredible amount of fat every day. Of course, they don't drink alcohol, but sugar, salt, and fat, I mean, they eat it like they breathe. It's hard to believe. The first time I saw people eating that, I couldn't believe it. Nobody in Iran is overweight. You have 90 million people there, and it's very, very rare to find somebody who is overweight. I actually took a film out of one of the main central metro stations, underground tubeway station, in the center of Tehran, in a really busy business area, of people coming out in the streets just to show my doctors that all those people who were regular people, not selected, they were just coming out of the station, and none of them, of the thousands people in my film, were overweight. And my doctor couldn't believe it, but still, that's what it is. Diets come in many forms, yes, from depriving to fasting. Some people go as fast as fasting. Yeah, this is no pun. They really really fast. Now, I'm not one to fast anyway. I will not say anything against fasting. I just personally don't think it is a healthy way of living. I have a friend in the UK who was really overweight, and she was really suffering from it. She actually fasted and fasted and fasted, and every time she fasted, she lost dramatically a lot of weight, and pounds and pounds and pounds. She shed stones every time of her body, only to regain them the faster the time after that. Eventually, she had, I think, she had a gastric operation, and I can't remember which one of the three, and lost weight through that. Now, good for her if she's happy like that, and she seems to be happy, if only for having lost all that weight for good. But again, I don't think this is natural. You may see and check and choose what is best for you. Let us now talk about Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurvedic medicine is ancient Indian from India medicine, which offers a holistic approach, puts the patient first in the treating of the disease. One of the most famous, I would say, preachers, maybe, but who talks about Ayurvedic medicine is an Indian originally himself, Deepak Chopra. Most people will know him. He's done a lot of good work. He was a fully trained traditional, chemical and surgical doctor and surgeon, and he eventually came back to Ayurvedic medicine after decades of practicing in an Occidental way. More and more people are going for Ayurvedic medicine these days in many countries. It looks really, from what I know, what little I know, it looks really really healthy. Again, choose your practitioner carefully. There are Indian people in many countries now, and so Indian people are very often followed by Indian doctors, and why not? Since they bring something good to their kin and other people and way beyond. Now, let's talk about music therapy. Now, people who know me know that it is one of my favorite subjects. I trained for 8 years in singing and dancing. I always loved music and songs and singing, and I still do. And I use it to help people feel better. I launched an appeal, which I have now closed, for free treatment, helping autistic people I got some good answers. Some people, not everybody, sadly, follows the treatment, although it is really, really easy to follow. But some people, have it their own way. That is their choice. It really brings very, very good results. 2,600 years ago, Pythagoras discovered music therapy while he was walking past a blacksmith's workshop. A topic he studied and put then to the test to check what the effects of music would be on man's body and soul. Pythagoras is still to date famous for having mastered many different skills, even if no written trace of this has ever been found. But anyway, um, people will believe what they like. Let's come back to music therapy. I have developed my own, in my own show on music therapy and autism, how we may address and help people, usually children, but not only, uh, going through a condition of autism. Autism is not a disease, it is a condition. It can be very, very difficult, for the autist himself or herself, and certainly with their environment. I was lucky enough that a friend of mine trusted me to have her son, who was then 13. His name is Jacob. He is an autistic boy and he has Asperger's syndrome. We got wonderful results with him after less than 2 weeks. He was a radically different boy. He had grown, he had completely changed, he had matured, he was manageable. He had got to the stage where he was almost violent in the family. And this is really, really sad to see. And there was nothing he could do because, of course, he was not responsible for his own deeds and acts. But he's really, really good now. He's been doing a lot of progress. He's learned new skills. He's asked to learn to play the guitar. He's a wonderful drawing artist. He does many, many things. Another example with music therapy is one of my clients. That client is called Katia, and her life was really hell because her husband was really, really stressed. She had two at the time, that was 15 years ago. She had two overactive preteens who were absolutely unmanageable. Day and night were absolute hell all the time for all the family. She was at her wits' end. She didn't know what to do. She had tried many, many things, just nothing worked. In a training session she had with me, she told me about it. I offered to use music in our workshop. The music was not part of the workshop, but it was actually language and communication workshop. But I offered, when she told me about this problem, to use music to relax because she was so stressed and tense, to relax her and to help her work more comfortably, more easily, and memorize. Because when you're stressed and you're trying to learn something, you find it so hard to relax and you can't, that you cannot learn because you forget everything and you cannot pay attention, the attention you need to pay. So at the end of the 2 hour session, she was really fine, relaxed, happy. She had done a lot of good work. And so she asked me to take my CD home and to put the family to the test. Now, that was no problem for me because I always have a computer with me and that music was also on the computer. So she went home, and a week later, she came back to me for another session, part of her training course. And she was a different woman. She said, Jessie, I cannot believe it. I'm so happy. We are all relaxed. My kids, I did exactly as you prescribed. Everybody's relaxed. Everybody's having a good night's sleep. We didn't know, the four of us didn't know what it was. My husband is relaxed. I'm relaxed. Our kids are relaxed. There really, really is a very nice and cool and relaxing atmosphere. My husband took the CD to work. He copied it there and he plays it there at work. That was in 1 week, one shot treatment. Really, really wonderful. Just for information for people who might be interested, music therapy is not listening to easy listening music. It's not what music therapy is about. There is a lot of music that claims to be music therapy on the internet, and that isn't, because it may not be what you need. Music, relaxing music and slow music, easy listening music is nice and it may relax you, but it is not a treatment. I've had people try and do this and it didn't work because it was not what they needed. Music therapy is more than that and different from that. Music therapy is not listening to a music you will necessarily like. In fact, I have had two patients who stopped listening to the music I had prescribed for them, claiming they did not like the music. Now, I said to them, I said, when you go to your doctors, they don't ask you whether you like the pills or the shots you have to take. Your chemist does not like you, what kind, what shape, what color you would like your pills to come in. You just get what you're supposed to take, and that may be for the rest of your life. Music therapy is much faster than that. It's much better than that, but it may not be music you like. Again, another thing I want to say about music therapy is that it does not mean you have to actually sit down and listening to the music. All you need to do is play it. Once you know what you need, what music you really need, what has been prescribed to you, you can just listen to it in the background in a place where you spend a lot of your time, at your office, for example, if you do office work. At home, if you're a home person, while you're cleaning, cooking, even with the kids and the family, it works all the time. Another one of advantages of music therapy is that it can be combined with a lot of other treatments. And I'm really anxious to try it with people suffering from bipolar disorder because I think it would really do a lot for them. But that remains to be tested, for me at least. Another approach I want to talk about now is what is called lithotherapy or crystal therapy. It is to do with stones, using stones and their energy to treat. Now, you may be using that or thinking you're using it by wearing, for example, a lot of women these days, they go around with necklaces or with bracelets. Some men too, of course, with different stones on it. Now, you're not supposed to mix stones when you do lithotherapy or you're treated with stones. The only stones you can mix are the one your professional practitioner will recommend. Your stones also need to be washed regularly and to be left in the sun for recharges. Go and see a professional if you know or if you've heard of a good one. I've used some stones sometimes. A lot of them did nothing for me, but maybe that was not the answer. One of them really did a lot of good to me. So try your luck. Another thing I want to talk about is what is called EFT, Emotional Focused Therapy, which consists of tapping in spots on the face with a view to restoring harmonious energy circulation, to restore health, well-being, and comfort. I have personally learned to use EFT, yet never really found any comfort or improvement with it. Years later, I went to see a Vietnamese healer near where I live, and he uses a similar approach, and that really worked. It's a Vietnamese way of approaching tapping on parts of the body, and it really, really works. He had me walk again. I could barely walk when I went to see him. Even with crutches, I couldn't walk. It was so bad. I walked out of his office and walked 3 miles back home from there. So, and it was the same with shamanism. I'm going to talk about shamanism in a minute, but it was the same. Those people really worked wonders on me and really helped me. Let's now talk about hypnotherapy and suggestopedia. My mother, who was a lifelong smoker, went to see a hypnotherapist once. And she paid a lot of money for it. The guy did his job, or what is considered to be his job. She walked out of his surgery and lit up a cigarette, went back home, didn't stop smoking at all. Now, this guy offered a guarantee. So he said, if you feel it doesn't work for you, come back to me and I will give you a second free this time session. So my mother went. She got her money back for the first one, and the second one didn't work either. She just went out of the surgery and lit up another cigarette. Sadly, she smoked herself to death, but that was what it was. Hypnotherapy is putting the patient in a sleep-like, hypnos is sleep in Greek, in a sleep-like state. So as to suggest, for example, a change, to work a change in the patient's questioning condition or illness. So you're put in a sleep-like condition, then the practitioner will ask you a few questions and suggest you to do a few things, and from there off, Bob should be your uncle, or not. Suggestopedia is similar in the way that it relaxes you deeply, but does not put you in a sleeping state. It was developed by a Spanish guy who went to India and came back to Spain after having trained as a yoga teacher there. And when he came back to Spain and he started teaching yoga, he realized that it was not for the European mind. And so he developed something else, which is actually, as best as I know, completely different from hypnotherapy and yoga, but it works really, really well. I use it myself a lot, and especially in sessions of karmic regression. It really, really works well when used properly again. Let me tell you now about shamanism. Shamans are like witch doctors, if you like, to the layman. And they approach every issue with a natural way to expand the conscience of the patient and guide the patients to recovery through the motions of experiencing altered states. But not only. The approach may require the use of tools such as spoken words for incantations, exercises based on controlled breathing, connection to forces of nature, technology, or natural substances, like, for example, ayahuasca, for people who know it. They have to drink fermented juice of some kind of, I think, cactus, a herb in any case. But that is not something, I don't like invasive things. I don't want foreign bodies to go into my body like this, in my vein, in my system, and etc. It's never been me. But I once heard through my osteopath friend about a woman called Natalie, who is a shaman, and she has this skill of extracting souls, which is really amazing. And when my friend told me about her, I immediately made an appointment at our earliest convenience, because I was really, really curious. And also, I was really in a bad state. I mean, I was on a bed. I was living on my bed at the time. I walked the 2 miles from the underground station to her surgery, going through hell, a long list of various excruciating pains, and waltzed my way back, leaving her after the session. I was like a kid, walking and really energetic and feeling really, really good. I had seen shamans working and doing amazing things before on television, but that time I really experienced it, and it was really, really amazing. And when I called her and explained what the trouble was with me, I said, how many sessions would I need? She said, only one. I said, wow, we're talking about miracles here. So I said, okay, she's the professional. Let me go and see what she can do for me. And she did. Now I said, okay, Natalie, I will let you know of my progress and will call you should I need any more sessions. She said, you won't. I said, well, okay, I trust you, but let's see. In fact, I was much better, but I was not well enough to say I was cured. So I went back, and all in all, I did 5 sessions with her, which was really good because she had been trained to believe that she only needed 1 session for patients. And from there on, she realized that some patients needed more than 1 session. I sent one of my friends to her, and he was really, really happy. He did 2 sessions, and he was really, really happy. Next, after shamanism, is what is called techno shamanism. Now, I've used techno shamanism. You can buy some machines that will help you relax and retrain your body to function in a better way. Now, Robert Monroe is probably one of the most famous uh, people to work with techno shamanism. Neurofeedback, if you've heard of it, is what he does. Light therapy can be added on, and music therapy can be added on too. Another one, which is one of my main approaches, is bioenergy. We are vibrations. All the world and all the worlds that surround us are nothing but vibrations. I explained that a moment ago. We may change our vibrations, we may alter them consciously or unconsciously. And when we do, we may get to the point where there is an imbalance in the vibrations within us and around us, which cause illness or conditions. The whole idea of bioenergy is to reharmonize, bring back the harmony where it should be, so as to treat the condition or the disease there. Bioenergy is the energy of life, as its name says. I first discovered bioenergy through a friend who was a practitioner, and but I didn't use her as a practitioner. I had to go to England for a period on holiday, and I decided to check somebody in London whom I really recommend, Michael Cohen. I know he's still practicing, and he used to have, I don't know what he does now, but he used to have 3 places of practice, one in Harrow, I think North London, one in the 2 others were in London, in various places. He's really, really good. He's really a nice guy too, so go and see him if you're in that area and you need his help. He's helped me. He has helped me. Of course, I wasn't there for a long time, so all I could do was take 3 sessions with him. I really needed more, but I wasn't over there for a long time enough. Bioenergy is also the art of manifesting universal energy. Everywhere in creation, there is energy, which gives life. We can manifest that energy or collect energy from a point and bring it to a point where it is needed. Another great advantage of bioenergy is not only that it heals, cures conditions and diseases, is that it works on all levels, body and soul. That is really, really good. And being able to manifest energy means you can work remote. I worked, for example, I was in Paris, my wife was in Tehran, so that's, I don't know, about 6,000 kilometers, I imagine. And I could treat her all the way just using bioenergy. I have another friend, again, I was in Paris. I have another friend who is Italian, and she lives south of Rome. And so that's over 2,000 kilometers. That's 100 and to 1,000, sorry, 100 miles for the mile people. And I could actually treat her. I gave her a treatment over the phone one day. My sisters used to have, when they were little, they used to have skin infections there all around their cheeks and their eyes. It was really, really getting worrying, because it was like they had the kind of fungi that was developing there and going for their eyes from their cheeks. And my mother used to, at that time, I'm talking about the early 70s, and we didn't talk about bioenergy as we do now. I think most people didn't really know what it was, actually. But then my mother took them to a woman who was a farmer there, and she was considered a healer. A lot of people went there, and she just used her hands and prayers to heal. And my sisters just went there for one session. They never had any problem at all. The issue disappeared instantly. Bioenergy also, yet another advantages of bioenergy is that it can be combined with so many things. It is amazing. You have heard of Reiki, most probably. Reiki is a Japanese, sorry, discovery by a man called Mikao Uzui, who discovered the energy of life, which he called Reiki. Reiki in Japanese means life's energy. And he learned to use that and to apply it with a view to helping people come out of diseases, regain comfort and health. Now, let me tell you about a woman I had in one of my classes. I used to give night classes. And this woman, she was called Natalie, and she came every week. She came, we had a big, big hall for that class, and we didn't really need that big hall to do what we had to do, but it was 3 times as big as we needed. And she used to sit right at the back in the dark all the time. And at the beginning, I thought, oh, maybe she feels more comfortable there. And then I thought, oh, maybe she's just shy. And I tried to put her at ease, just nothing worked. And one day I said, Natalie, why are you sitting so far back and in the dark? She said, oh, I've got this problem. And then I really took a look at her. She looked like an old woman. She had really big black rings around her eyes. Her face was completely wrinkled, really like an old woman who was 25 years older than she was. And she said, oh, I've got migraines and this and that, and it's really painful. I'd rather stay here. I said, well, okay, if that's how you feel, so long as you're happy, that's fine by me. And then suddenly it was our break time, because we had a 3-hour session, and in the middle I used to give people the 10 minutes and 15 minutes break time. I went to see her and I said, I use Reiki. Do you know what Reiki is? She said, no. So I explained, and I said, I can really make you feel better in minutes. So she said, okay. I said, I can give you a treatment now if you like, and you'll feel better in a few minutes. And she said, oh, Jessie, I have a splitting migraine. It's really horrible. So I said, okay, let me just relax. I don't need to touch you. I just need to work on the energy with you and around you and in you, and I will need to touch you. You won't have to do anything. Just sit back and relax. She did. Minutes later, she was a completely different woman. The pain had completely gone. She'd been in pains for days with splitting headaches and migraines. The rings, the black rings around her eyes had completely disappeared, and she was looking 25 years younger, not one wrinkle on her face. And I said, Natalie, how do you feel? She says, I feel wonderful. Everything is just great. I have no more pain. I feel so relaxed. It's really good. I said, go into the ladies' room and check your look in the mirror. I think you will not believe it. She came back. She said, my God, Jessie, I cannot recognize myself. I said, I know. And that's what it was. I used that on a woman who had a jaw cancer here, I think, and this side or that side. Anyway, she had bone grafts. She had bone taken off her jaw, bone put back in. It was really, and she still had pains all the time. I gave her quick sessions, For 4 weeks, she was much better. She was looking much better. She was moving much better. We were in a Qigong class. In a Qigong class, you have to move. You have to do certain movements like dancing kind of things, shadow boxing, and you name it. She could just move. She was completely different. Another woman I know, we'll call her Farah, she had very, very bad period pains to the point nothing could cure her. I gave her treatment. She was relieved. All the same, within minutes, I had to give her free treatments, I think. Within minutes, she was relieved. Another man I knew, his name is Raymond. He had pains in his feet and legs, which were really crippling to the point he had a job where he was standing all the time. He worked in a restaurant as a waiter. And he said, my life is really hell. I have to stop. I have to get breaks. Nothing just works. I have really crippling pains in my legs and in my feet. I had to give him 10 sessions. He's been completely free of all those pains for years now. About 15 years, he's never had the pains again. I have another friend, talking about bioenergy again, and still, I have another friend her name is Monique. Monique has carpian canals. She had to have operation on her wrist, and it's really, really painful. I gave her one session. She canceled her appointment. She was so much better. I said, don't cancel your appointment because you're the first person I treat with this. Just make sure that things are better, or go, even if only so that your surgeon tells you everything is okay. The week after that, I saw her again. I said, how are you feeling? She says, I'm feeling much better. Most of the pain has gone. I can hardly feel anything now. I said, okay, I'll give you a second session. She was okay after that. I still gave her a third session just to reassure myself and to, in the hope of sealing the recovery, as it were. She never had to have the surgery again. She never even saw her. She canceled her appointment with her surgeon again. Another one of my friends, Monica, had to have the operation on both hands, and it is really, really painful. I treated one of my sisters with that after all, because she also had problems. She had to go. She says she's okay now. She doesn't need anything. Another thing I want to tell you about now about healing is energetic medicine and immaterial surgery. This is what I do when I use, for example, bioenergy. It can be, one of the main advantages of it is not only that it heals and cures, is also that it can be done anywhere and even over a long distance. I treated somebody one day in a metro station in Paris. She was really, really feeling bad, etc. I did that instantly. I did that on other friend, another woman who's called Nicole. Nicole had problems with her stomach. I realized that in a past life, her stomach had been severed into two parts, and she had to have a gastric ring after that in this life. She was 72 at the time. Because she was grossly overweight, she couldn't control her weight or her eating. And she was not a compulsive eater or anything, but she was really overweight, and she was a really dynamic woman. So I said, this is what I can feel. It's like your stomach has been split into two. I said, where are you with the gastric ring now? She said, well, I've had to have it taken off because it wasn't working and it was giving me more trouble than it was worth. I gave her 2 sessions of immaterial energetic surgery. She never had problems with her stomach again. She was in pain all the time. So this is things we can do. Now, the last 2 last things I'm going to talk about tonight. One is verbal energy. We can use word speech to actually reprogram ourselves. And we should actually be careful with our language when we speak. There is a trend, for example, in France at the moment, where people put little everywhere or small everywhere. They have a small talk with someone. They went for a small meal in a small restaurant. You know, they put small everywhere. The result of that is they have a small life, because their mind is like programmed to accept small things. And from there on, they're losing their ambition. They are happy with whatever little they can get. We are here to get as much as we can out of life. So this is why we should use constructive, not destructive or diminutive vocabulary, because this is our brain, our thoughts, our words are the way we build our own world around you. Remember, at the beginning of this show tonight, I talked about neuro-linguistic programming. If we condition ourselves for small things and a small life, this is all we're going to get. So be positive. We can use language to also reprogram our DNA. Now, there are many, many ways to reprogram our DNA, but one of the easiest one is speech. Ask our DNA to actually reprogram our DNA. Now, many years ago, about a few decades ago, somebody, I think in America, discovered that there was something he called junk DNA. A lot of DNA we do not use. In fact, that's as much as he knew back then, I suppose, or as he found out back then. In fact, there is nothing junk in the universe. The universe is not created for things or people we do not know. Everything happens for a reason, and everyone has a purpose. This DNA is like sleeping DNA. We can wake it up. And once we wake our DNA up, we start developing new skills, putting more of our potential to good use. So let's do that. I do that in sessions where we actually channel, again with my friend Stefan. We actually channel. It is really amazing. And we do this with aliens who help us, higher aliens who help us. Now, they also give us what are called codes. Imagine the codes are like a new application you download onto your computer or your smartphone. So they give you new features, new skills, new possibilities, new tools. Only this time, the codes we get from those people, alien people, they are things that go directly into our DNA and expand our mind, our potential, develop our potential. There is a lot of things that can be done through that. And they can also help us. This is what I call galactic healing. They can also help us sometimes, very often, when I have to operate or treat somebody. Some aliens will appear from here or there or anywhere. They just help me and or guide me in thoughts, or just literally guide my hands. I just have to, let them do whatever they want with my hands or my mind, and then we get connected. I get connected to them, and then they just basically do the work through me. And this goes back also to a form of immaterial surgery. And I can see that. I can actually see what the problem is. Somebody one day, he had headaches, a problem with his jaw here, another problem with his eye here. And I just checked him, and getting connected to him, I realized he had been tortured. He had been put into his jaw here a kind of sword, in a way, that had actually destroyed his part here. And that's where his problem in the jaw and in the teeth in this area were coming from. I have, with immaterial surgery, the skill to actually take that out and repair that over his karma. That was in the past life, like 500 years, more than 500 years ago. And he was better minutes later. I did the same because he had been tortured and somebody had put a big piece of metal in his eye, and he was there sitting on his chair. I was not talking to him, I was working. His eyes were closed, and I did that. after that, I realized he had something else just put in, like a pole, a metallic pole, like a lance, and a spear, like shot, put in right through his head, the top of his head here. And I was doing the work to take it out. He could not see me, he could not hear me. At the end of the session, I said, Frederick, how are you feeling? He said, I'm feeling great. I've never been so relaxed. I'm feeling really good. I said, okay, so the treatment is working now. You're going to be better. He said, yes, my pain seemed to have lessened already, and so I feel better. I said, okay, well, you'll get better. Tomorrow you'll be all right. He said, Jesse, can I tell you one strange thing? I said, yes, okay, Frederick, what is this strange thing? He said, I feel like a spear has been taken out from the top of my body, from the top of my head, and I feel so much better for it. I couldn't believe it. I said, Frederick, I didn't tell you anything. You couldn't have seen it. He said, yes, this is what I feel. I said, this is what I did, Frederick. I didn't tell you, but it needed to be done. And he was really, really well after that. The other big thing I do, one of my main things, because in that karmic regressions, for example, I can treat the body, the soul, connections to the family in the present and in the past. I can use also that with bioenergy, immaterial surgery, music therapy, and of course, treating the soul and implants, for example. Some people have been cursed, they use voodoo and black magic and things like that. I can take all that out of them. And it really works. Now, a lot of people will tell you, oh, you have implants in your body and I will take them out. They're usually the work of aliens. And I will take them out. And the beauty of it is they can actually take them out. But what little do they know that actually when you take them out, the aliens come back and put new ones in. So it doesn't work. What I do is I actually negotiate with those people, and we try and find a different way, or a way that is either not so invasive or so painful for them, because implants can be really painful. So we can really work with that, and there is no way anything on this earth will help you. You may take painkillers. I have two sisters actually who have come to me, and they have had implants regularly put in. They've used a number of traditional, chemical, surgical, alternative treatment. Nothing worked. The only thing that worked is my negotiating with the aliens who put the implants, sorry, there, implants, and excuse me, and so we're getting results. The same with black magic and voodoo spells. That really works. I can do all that through karmic regression with the plus, 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 plus of all the many things I can do. All you need to do is to trust your healer. You need to want to get better, to heal, and then you will feel better. You have to welcome the healing. Some people go and see healers and they refuse to be better for many reasons. They may not believe what you do to work. They may not believe you or trust you to do the work, or it may go against their grain, their religion, their philosophy, their experience, whatever. They may have been with bad practitioners before who could not cure them with that. Excuse me. So they will not trust you. It's the case of one of my friends. I treated his wife, many things, many major issues she had. She's absolutely trouble free now, issue free. There's nothing that will work on him because he doesn't believe in it. That's that. Well, everybody, we have a nice selection there. I hope I have been clear enough. You may ask questions if you have questions. Oh, sorry, something got into my throat. You may contact me and ask me here, or contact me on Facebook, Jesse Ashra CRAIGNOU, and I will try and help you. We will see wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever the problem is, we will check on this together. and bring you some comfort and relief. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for more. I have more shows. I have past shows. I have more shows and more treatments to come. Keep well. Be with you soon. Keep well. Bye.